You know what? If you want to support me in the future, be positive. Be a voice for good. There's a lot of hate in the world. It's really sad, especially for those of us that are older and have been around a while to see it change. It's really sad to see so many people so fast to be offended by something. So on edge, just waiting for somebody to offend them, or just waiting to be outraged by something. So, the best thing that you and I and all of us can do, you can do, because obviously there are a lot of you, be a shining light in your world. You guys, I am so enormously grateful that you're here. You know, these events are for you. I've been voicing anime and video games for about 20 years. And when I started, there were only a handful of conventions. And we would just go and meet people, and in these last 15 or 16 years, it's just exploded. And I have been so humbled and honored to be a part of it, to watch it grow. And you know, when I was a little kid, I went to Comic-Cons. Of course, they weren't Comic-Cons like they are now, they were Star Trek conventions. Who went to Star Trek conventions? Come on, throw it up. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, my mother used to drop me off at the convention. She's like, get out of here. Because she wouldn't go with me, because I was dressed as Captain Kirk. The scrawniest little 70-pound Captain Kirk you ever saw. But when I went, I felt like I was home. You know what I mean? 362 days out of the year, you're a nerd, you're a little weird, you like things that maybe not everybody, you know, so you can't really talk to people all the time. But then for those 3 days, I'm surrounded by Star Trek fans, all wearing uniforms they made and phasers they built, and you feel like your family, you know? And I think that's one of my favorite parts of conventions, is that, you know, especially when it comes to like anime. If I had a nickel for everybody that has written me or talked to me over the years and said, I'm always the odd man out at school, I'm the quiet odd man out at work, I always feel like I don't really fit in, and I'm always like afraid if people find out that I like this or that I'm a fan of that or whatever, that they'll kind of tease me. But when they come to a convention, they realize they're not alone. That there are literally hundreds of thousands of people out there that love all the same things you do. So it's such a privilege and a pleasure to come together and meet those people and spend time celebrating what you love. I always like to tell people it's like church, right? I mean, it's like Comic-Cons are like church, right? I mean, think about it. What's church? It's a place where people come together to celebrate a thing they love that binds them together, right? Isn't that what we're doing? I love it. So I am honored to be here, and I'm even more honored that you're here. I am happy to answer any questions you have, preferably about my career, or why my hair is so puffy. anything that's on your mind. If you want to raise your hands, this gentleman will come over. How about that young lady right back there first? Before we take the first question, let me tell you that this cosplayer is amazing. Stand up, Beth. Look at Beth. Oh, yeah. It's Broly time. I love it. I really love the new Broly. How many of you have not seen the movie? Get out. Get out. No, stay. I was just teasing. I loved it so much. I played Broly for the last 15 years. The first movies came out like 15 years ago, and then of course all the video games. But I always was sad that like there's just no story. He just didn't have any backstory. He just likes to, you know, cause damage and destruction, right? Yell and scream Kakarot. So when I heard there was a new movie coming out, and then I heard that the creator, Toriyama, who created Dragon Ball, I didn't even know this, but he didn't even have anything to do with the original Broly movies. Nothing. So the reason he wanted to make this film was so it would be his vision of what he wanted that character to be. And I gotta tell you, when we recorded it, I just loved it. And you feel so much more for the character. He's actually sympathetic in some ways. And those of you that have watched it know exactly what I'm talking about. I loved it, loved it. So honored to be a part of it. For those of you that don't know, before we get into the questions, I am one of the biggest Star Trek fans you will ever meet. Classic Star Trek. I mean the 60s Star Trek. The one that started it all. It's my jam. I was obsessed with that show. Like you don't even know. My mother, see we're back to my mom. My mother used to call it Star Trash. I didn't hit her, I promise. Never hit my mom, never rose a hand. But she did it because I drove her insane. It was all Star Trek, all the time. I'd lock myself in my room for hours and build models and try to make phasers and communicators out of anything I could find. And then I would round kids in the neighborhood up and make them wear the Star Trek uniforms that I made and make little home movies. And these are movies, you guys. This is like little film cameras. There weren't video cameras in the early 70s, mid 70s. So it was little home 8mm, Super 8mm movie cameras. I would build cardboard sets out in the woods behind my house. I was obsessed. And so fast forward several decades, and about 6 years ago, I started a web series called Star Trek Continues. You guys, if you haven't seen it, I hope you go home and watch it. It picks up right, how many of you remember what Captain Kirk used to say at the beginning of every episode? Remember the opening theme? Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's 5-year mission. But they didn't have a 5-year mission. They were canceled abruptly in their 3rd season. And then the next time you saw Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy was 10 years later in Star Trek the Motion Picture. But by that time, Captain Kirk had become an admiral. He wasn't even captain of the Enterprise anymore. And Mr. Spock had gone back to Vulcan, and Dr. McCoy had quit the service altogether, went back to Georgia and grew a beard and drank mint juleps all day. So I had this thought. What if we pick up right where the original series was canceled and finish the 5-year mission and actually craft classic Trek stories that explain where everybody is when the motion picture begins. Finish the 5-year mission, return the Enterprise to Earth. It goes into the dry dock that it was in at the beginning of Star Trek the Motion Picture. And we see the stories that explain why Spock is on Vulcan. When the I love you, girl. Okay. And so that's what we did. So StarTrekContinues.com, we rebuilt the entire soundstage from the original Star Trek. And we made 11 full-length, hour-long episodes. And let me just tell you, for those of you that have seen it, like that gentleman right there, you will feel like you're watching episodes that were locked in a vault for 50 years. That you suddenly discovered 11 more episodes that finishes and brings closure to what is arguably the most iconic series in television history. So check it out. Good friends like Todd Haberkorn and Chuck Huber. How many of you watch Mythbusters? Grant Imahara from Mythbusters plays Sulu. Sulu. Oh my. And who can tell me, who's a Star Trek fan here, who can tell me who played Scotty in the original Star Trek? What was his name? James Doohan. Jimmy Doohan played Scotty. The Scotty, right? The original Scotty. His son, Chris Doohan, plays his father's role in my series, and it is amazing. It is all labor of love. This is the best part. You ready? You're probably thinking, okay, where's the hook here? When is he going to tell me how much it costs to watch it, right? He's trying to get my money, I knew it. It's free. All free. Myself and the other people involved made these episodes to celebrate something that we loved when we were young. Something that had a very, very large influence on me and millions of others. So if you go to StarTrekContinues.com and click on episodes, all 11 are there for you to enjoy, absolutely free. We even put up their Blu-ray and DVD images so you can literally burn your own DVDs and Blu-rays. We put all the artwork up there. There are tons of behind-the-scenes videos, and it's all out of love for classic Star Trek. Oh, and blooper reels, thank you. Yeah, the bloopers. So check it out, okay? Promise me? Go home and check out StarTrekContinues.com. Thank you. And even if you're not a fan, somebody in your family is, I'll bet, or your crazy uncle, or your school teacher, or your neighbor next door, somebody, let them know. We have over 10 million viewers, and we've won a couple of dozen awards. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It is probably my lifelong dream project. Because when I was 70 pounds and this big around, I was pretending to be Captain Kirk. And now, making this series, I got to fulfill a childhood dream and play Captain Kirk in the series. So check it out, okay? Who's got a question? Yes, my dear. It's on.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Papa, can you hear me? Sorry.
My question for you is, as a Christian voice actor, did you have trouble the first time you were given a script that had any curse words? Like, was that a dilemma for you?
What a great question. You know, there's a character that comes to mind named Kurtz Weber in a show called Fullmetal Panic. Has anyone seen Fullmetal Panic? So years ago, probably 15 or 20 shows into my voice acting, this show comes up, Fullmetal Panic, and I'm playing this character named Kurtz Weber. And right out of the gate, he's, pervy and profane. And I said to the director, does he have to say this? And the director said something to me, Don Rush, I'll never forget it. Don said to me, well, if you can communicate the same thing without saying the actual words, I don't care. And so I rewrote a couple of the lines and did them, and he was like, yeah, that'll be fine. So early on in my career, I tried to avoid any kind of profanity. As I continued to work, my feeling about it changed. And here's what happened. I came to understand that I'm playing a character. I don't swear. In my life, Vic, right, I don't run around swearing. But Kurtz Weber swears. Or this character may use an odd word here and there. That's not me. That's them. So when you're playing a character, the goal is to communicate the character, right? I'll give you a perfect example. If a church puts on a passion play, you with me? If a church every year does, let's say, an Easter play, right? Somebody's got to play Judas, right? Now, this fine gentleman here, hope you don't mind if I use you. Let's say this fine gentleman here is a deacon in his church or an elder in his church, and he's cast to play Judas. Well, people aren't going to come up to him and go, you betrayed the Lord, right? No, because he's playing a character for the sake of the story. So a lot of what I came to terms with was that you play a character for the sake of the story. And every story has to have antagonists and protagonists and good guys and bad guys. I've had plenty of anime series where I've seen an occasional JC. Won't do that. And the director will often just, they're not married to it, you know what I mean? A translator somewhere wrote the translation, and they give it to the actors and the director, and you can make adjustments if you need to. It's a tricky line to balance, and I will tell you guys, I've not always balanced it well. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, as we all have, right? And you know, I've done some anime series that I was like, ooh, I didn't realize that's what this one was about. You know, I would play a character, and he shows up for like 3 episodes, and then he's gone, and I don't really know anything about the show at all. And then I find out a year later what the show is about. I'm like, oh, I was in that? Whoops, because I didn't realize. So you do the best you can, right? Which is a word for all of us. In every endeavor, right? You do the best you can. You don't always make the best choices, but you try to do the best you can with what you have. You make a mistake, you move forward, right? In the words of Edward, right? You get up, stand, move forward. Get a good set of legs, right? Get up and use them. Question? Raise your hand and, yeah, I'm gonna take care of this lady and you pick somebody back there. Hi!
No, I'm not nervous.
She's not nervous.
I think you're a pipsqueak.
What? See, she's trying to provoke me. You're trying to get me to do a short rant, aren't you? What's your name? Sam? Everyone, Sam just called me a pipsqueak. Who you calling a pipsqueak? Yes, question? Hi, your cosplay is amazing.
What is
Do you know Careless Whisper?
I know
They're like, oh no, he's gonna be on Careless Whisper the whole time. That is a great uniform, dude. You know, I recognize that uniform. That is spot on. You guys want to see a perfect uniform? This is the exact fabric of the 3rd season. I'm going to nerd out for a minute. I will come back to you. We're talking about Star Trek now. Did you guys know that in the first 2 seasons of Star Trek, the uniforms were made of velour? They were kind of fuzzy. Velour. They were cheap as all get out, and every time they would launder them, they would shrink. Did you ever notice how on some of the episodes Kirk's sleeve was like 3 inches up his arm? It was like this. It was way up high on his, you know. It was because they were laundering them, they kept getting smaller. And so when they got to the 3rd season, they're like, we need to change up this fabric. So they made them out of this. And this braid, can I borrow your arm? Does it detach? I'm gonna take it with me. This is exact braid. When I was a little kid, I would go to Joanne Fabrics and I would look for braid. And the only thing they had, and you people that make stuff, you've seen it. I think they call it rickrack. And it's just literally this. And I bought it and sewed it on my shirts. All my shirts. My mother, remember? I drove her insane. Because I sewed rickrack on all my shirts. But that's it. That's spot on. You look great, man. Give me some. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What has been your most challenging role and why?
What has been the most challenging role and why? Challenging emotionally or physically? Both. I knew she was going to say that. Probably the most emotionally challenging was Ed. He went through some pretty traumatic stuff, right? I mean, what does it feel like to have your arm ripped off? I don't know. Do you know? Probably not good though. So like how hard would that be? Or arm and leg? Or or watching your dad leaving you, or watching your mother pass when you're 9. You know what I mean? Or almost seeing your brother disappear into oblivion. I mean, there was a lot of emotional power in Fullmetal Alchemist. And if you've seen it, I hope a lot of you have, it's my favorite thing I've ever done. It is really an amazing show, and I was honored to be a part of it. But emotionally challenging for an actor is fun, right? Because that's what you want to do. You want to play a character that emotes. You want to play a role that moves people, that people can connect with, or that inspires people to keep going forward and not give up. So the emotional challenge was actually a gift. To play a boring character is boring. But those emotional characters that have those really difficult story arcs are always the most fun for an actor. The most physically challenging, vocally challenging was Broly, actually. But it wasn't Broly from the new movie. Did you notice that he wasn't down in the cellar with the low, mean, guttural voice, chesty voice all the time? And that was the best news I was ever given. When Funimation called and said, we need to start recording on this, and it's not the same Broly, and we don't want you to push it down low and dark like the original Broly. I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you. And I really enjoyed the new one. But the first Broly was pretty rough on the voice. Very rough on the voice. Until I played a character in Digimon named Mad Leomon. And he was a giant robo-lion. And I remember doing it going, I am actually missing the days of Broly right now. He was rough. Fortunately, he didn't last for very long. Question, yes?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's your name?
My name is Cross.
Hello, Cross?
Yes.
Okay, can I just say something? What's up? How come you have so many amazing names? I have met such cool names here. Guillermo, are you here? Guillermo! Boom! Ransom? Where's Ransom? Is that? Boom! Cool names. Super cool. You just joined the club, man.
Thanks, I'm happy to be there.
Good. What's your question, Cross? I'm gonna be Chris, and you be Cross.
All right. Who's doing applesauce?
Beth here. Her name is no longer Beth. It's applesauce.
What was your first exposure to, like, anime?
Oh my gosh. My first exposure to anime was a show that I loved and would imitate the characters, but I didn't know it was anime. I just knew it was weird. You know, it was just different. It didn't look like Bugs Bunny. It didn't sound like Scooby-Doo. It was just different. Stylistically different, voice different, animation style different, but I loved it. I just didn't know it was anime, and that was Speed Racer. Yep. Oh my gosh. My friend Wayne and I used to run around all the time imitating Speed Racer and Pops Racer and Spritle and Chim Chim and Racer X and all of that. And can I tell you a funny Speed Racer story? Years ago, some anime companies put on, ADV actually, sponsored the American Anime Awards. The first annual American Anime Awards. their thinking was, hey, if movies can have the Oscars, and music can have the Grammys, and theater can have the Tonys, right? And on. Let's create an American Anime Awards. So they started one, and they put up a whole bunch of the categories, you know, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Long Form Series, Best whatever, music, all of those things, all those categories. And then they let fans vote to narrow it down to 5 finalists in each category. Those 5 finalists would go to New York City, and they had a big event, a live stage, like in a theater, like the Academy Awards, with a live audience, right? And I had been nominated that year as Best Actor for Fullmetal and Macross. I'd done for 2 different studios that same year. So I'm sitting in the audience. We're all sitting in the audience. So I'm sitting here, and there's this older gentleman beside me. He looked nothing like you. So we're watching it, right? We're watching the show, and I'm making small talk with the guy, right? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know him. So they get to the portion of the awards ceremony where they're going to give away the Lifetime Achievement Award. And they start talking, this man has done more for anime than anyone. He has performed in such and such over hundreds of titles. He's most well known as the voice of Speed Racer. And I was like, dang. Freaking Speed Racer's here. The Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Peter Fernandez. And the guy stepped right here, stands up. And I'm just watching him walk up there, and suddenly I'm like, right? I was nerding out myself. He goes up on stage, he gets this trophy, like an Oscar, and he brings it, they called it a mecha. They called it the mecha. It was like a giant gold giant robo statue. So he comes and sits back down, and like, before I was like, yeah, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, good to see you. Now I'm like, it's like, oh my gosh, congratulations. And he's showing me his award, right? And they're moving along with the ceremony, and I'm sitting here going, well, then they get to Best Actor. And I won. And I went up and got my trophy that looked just like his, and came back down and sat down and was showing him my trophy. And think about that full circle moment. That when I was 12 and 13 and 14, I was watching Speed Racer, didn't even know what the word anime was, and loving that man's work. And would have never guessed in a million lifetimes that 30 years later, I would not only be voicing anime, but I would be sitting in an auditorium with the same award that Speed Racer had received 10 minutes earlier. That was an amazing moment for me. It was one of my favorite memories of my career in anime. That was a long Speed Race. He just said, oh, what's the oldest anime you remember? That was a long answer. Sorry. Yes?
We got another question.
Excellent.
Hi, I wanted to know what your favorite continuous episode was to shoot.
Oh my gosh, bro. That's tough. Yeah, you've seen them? So many good ones. What was your favorite episode?
The part 2 finale was the Mirror episode.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can I tell you guys about what he's talking about? How many of you remember an old Star Trek episode where they went to this mirror universe and Spock had a goatee? Remember that? There was a transporter malfunction and they got flipped with a parallel universe, but in the other universe, everybody was real sadistic and violent, and you would literally advance in rank by killing the guy in front of you. It was one of the most popular episodes of the original Star Trek, and it was called Mirror, Mirror. At the very end of that episode, the good Captain Kirk, right before he beams back to his universe, he gives a big Captain Kirk speech to mirror Spock. And basically what he says is, hey, Spocko, you know that this whole violent, mean, sadistic empire of yours is not going to last very long. It's going to fall apart. So why don't you be an instrument of change, Spock? Why don't you lead the way and try to make this world a better place? The last thing Mirror Spock says, Captain Kirk, I shall consider it. And then Captain Kirk beams away, and that was the last you saw. Well, I remember thinking, wouldn't it be cool to make a sequel to that episode? I wonder what happened when Mirror Captain Kirk returned to his Enterprise, and I wonder what Mr. Spock did with that challenge that good Kirk gave him. So we wrote and produced our third episode. The title of it was Fairest of Them All, as in Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. And we literally recreated that scene at the very end of the original Star Trek episode. We recreated it, shot for shot, word for word, music cue, lighting, everything. That moment where Kirk gives him that challenge. But then when good Kirk beams away and the original episode was over, our episode just keeps going, and Mirror Kirk beams in, and the whole episode is about that story, what Spock did. That was a great one. That was a great one. We have a lot of great episodes. For those of you that have seen our episodes, our 5th episode was one of my favorites. Let's just say history. We'll just give you that clue. I directed that episode, and I was so proud of it. The 4th episode, White Iris, was so moving to me personally. I'll just tell you guys that everybody has ghosts. Everybody has regrets, things they wish they could have done differently, and so does Captain Kirk. And our 4th episode explored that as well. Yes, sir. Joshua, what's your question?
Hi, I've been really curious. Is there anybody in your family, or like your mom or any members of your family, who watch any of your works, or do they have a favorite thing that you've voice acted?
Well, you know what? Believe it or not, my mom has come to several conventions over the years, and she loves them. She has become really great friends with a lot of fans. And I will tell you something really funny. My mother came down every time we shot an episode of Star Trek Continues. She came down and helped out with the production. Now I want you to imagine that this woman who 40 years ago would watch her little kid camped in front of the television, a 19-inch black and white television, watching Star Trek religiously. I wouldn't only watch it, you guys. I would put a cassette recorder by the speaker of the television and record the episode on audio, and then I would put the cassette player under my pillow at night and listen to episodes when I went to sleep. Obsessed with capital O. Imagine my mom enduring that, and then seeing me walk on to a perfect reproduction of the bridge of the Enterprise in a perfect uniform like that gentleman's, playing Captain Kirk, and she remembers me tearing the house apart, building sets, in our living room, and playing Star Trek when I was 10. And she came down there, and she just had the time of her life. My mother has been very, very supportive. My dad took off when I was very young, so it was just me and Mom. and she did an awful lot to to encourage and inspire me. I love her a little bit.
So we have someone asking for one word, pretty much.
Yeah, I know you said yours probably your most vocally challenging.
Oh no, don't ask me to say
but
Kakarot.
I just want to hear that one time.
I just want to hear you do it.
Kakarot!
That was okay. What's your name? Mikey, come up here. Give it up for Mikey! Mikey, I want to give you the full voice acting experience. All right? I'm going to be the director, and you're the voice actor of Broly. Ready? So you're going to hear 3 beeps, and right where the 4th beep should be, you give me your best Kakarot. You ready? Boop, boop, boop.
Kakarot!
Pretty good. Okay, so now, Mikey, it wasn't quite long enough. Gotta hold that end out a little bit longer for me, okay? Get a big breath, support it really good, and push it down in your voice lower. Like instead of being where your normal voice is, push it down low. Down here, ready? Boop, boop, boop.
Kakarot!
It wasn't any longer. Let's get one more. This is my life. Yeah, you ready? Now, here's the way you can conserve some air though. Start quieter, so you build to the end. So it's more of a, see what I'm saying? All right, big breath. Boop, boop, boop.
Kakarot!
Kind of trailed out at the end there though, did you hear it? Dude, I'm serious. You know what I love the most about the new Broly movie? He never says Kakarot. Never. I literally walked in and said, okay, how many times am I saying Kakarot? And they go, it's like, thank you, Lord, again. Another blessing. I love it. Give it up for Mikey. See how I got out of that too?
Okay, Vic. So,
Dude, you're the best. Mikey, give another hand for Mikey.
So here in the back, Vic, we have somebody asking, well, we know you have great hair, but how do you...
Oh, this is a toupee. It's a good one, but it's glued on.
So, as somebody who enjoys doing voices often, you have a very wide range of voices. How do you manage that?
See, you know what, bro? What's your name?
Scott.
Scotty, you know what? I don't think I do. I don't. You know what? There are some people who can imitate hundreds of people, right? There are some people who have this voice that, like, they can do so many different voices. I have never considered myself one of them. Now, Scott, I play a wide variety of characters. But if you listen closely, close your eyes, don't think about the character's personality or how they're drawn differently, but listen to the voice. It's more a matter of attitude than it is changing your voice. I don't have a ton of, I don't think I'm very good at all, actually, at changing my voice that much. People always say, oh, I recognize your voice immediately, and I'm like, oh, great. Because I wish I could disguise it better. And conversely, I'm always really flattered when somebody says, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was you. I love when people say that. Like people would say, oh my gosh, I didn't know you played Crow in Ruby. Oh my gosh. Or, yeah, Crow, Uncle Crow. Give me a drink, kiddo. And they didn't know it was me. Or Ikaku in Bleach, or maybe Broly. Early Broly. Prehistoric Broly. but it's more attitude. And you know, there are a lot of actors who play lots of different characters, but their voice is always the same. You know what I mean? They sound like that's their voice, but they're playing a completely different role. So, while Crow may be, this is my normal voice, right?
So it's gonna drop down lower and get a little gruffly. And then you just get a little lazy with how you talk. You know, supposed to be drunk. I'm not drunk, but maybe I am.
Right? It's really my voice, it's just more attitude. And then Tamaki from Oron, right? Oh, look, you beautiful commoner. There's something about you that thrills me, and I don't know what it is. Long live the poor. It's attitude. You see what I'm saying? It's more of that flamboyant, lyrical kind of quality to the way you talk. And articulate. Extra clear. A gentleman always articulates. You know, it's not, there's really no difference in my voice, it's just attitude, right? So I wish I had a wider range to be able to hide my voice better, but unfortunately, I don't think I'm very good at it. Yes?
Okay, so this gentleman has a question.
Out of all the anime shows and movies you've been a part of, if you had to pick a show or a world to live in, which one would you choose?
If I had to pick one show of all the ones I've done, it would have to be Fullmetal. I mean, even if I wasn't a part of Fullmetal, it's still like one of the greatest anime ever. I was just lucky to be a part of it. And everybody in that show did so amazing. You know, it's very rare that an anime series just hits on all cylinders. You know what I mean? You watch a show and you'll think, well, the animation's really great, but the story's kind of lame. Or the story's really good, but the music's kind of crappy. Or this is a cool show, but the voice acting's not very good. Or, you know, any number of things that might make the show less than it could be. But with Fullmetal, I mean, the first Fullmetal especially, was so beautiful, so well crafted, so well written, well animated, music, everything about it was to me was perfect. Which is why I was terrified to hear that Brotherhood was coming. I was like, oh no, oh my gosh. How many of us have seen sequels that are really bad? Most of the time, right, Scott? Most of the time. Sequels are very rarely any good. Do you know why? Because the original story was one story. They told the story, it ended, ta-da, it's done. There's nowhere else to go with it, you know what I mean? It's like Jaws. How many ways can you tell a story about a shark eating people, right? It's like, okay, that's really cool one time. You might be able to figure out something to make it interesting twice, but not 5 times. There's no story to mine, you know what I mean? There's nothing. Can I be honest with you? I hope nobody throws anything at me. This is my theory on Star Wars, too. It's my theory on why they're making new Star Wars, and they're exactly the same. And here's why. The original Star Wars was about a young kid, nobody, living in the desert, who grows up to not only defeat the Empire, but redeem his father's soul, right? Done. The end. Beautiful story. It's done. But no, we want to make more money. So let's make more. So what do? Let's change the guy to a girl. She's still living in the desert. She doesn't have her actual parents. Let's put another Death Star in there. Let's put another Darth Vader. We'll call him Kylo Ren in a mask. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? And instead of having the first movie on what was the Tatooine. Tatooine, then the ice planet of Hoth, then the forest moon of Endor. Let's put them all in one movie. They were all over the place. And I'll tell you something. when the first Star Wars reboot came out, I mean, I was a big Star Trek, Star Wars, big Star Wars fan. When it came out, I was like, oh my gosh, they're just regurgitating the movies all over again. But I walked away going, you know what? They're trying to reach a new generation. I'm gonna give them a pass. I'm gonna let this first movie slide. But now, they better go somewhere new. The next one, they better go somewhere new. They didn't. The Empire is back chasing the rebels. It's the same story. And I remember thinking, everything that Luke and Leia and Han went through to beat the Empire and restore freedom to the galaxy, and it's as if nothing has changed. They're even flying the same ships and wearing the same uniforms. Whatever they call themselves, it's still the same. And what in the world am I even talking about? What was the question? Oh, the Brotherhood. So when I heard Brotherhood was coming out, I was like, oh no, oh my gosh. No, please don't ruin the original Full Metal. And when people started telling me that it was based on the manga, that was my first inclination that, ooh, it might be really good. Because fans were telling me all the time, I love Fullmetal Alchemist, have you read the manga? And I would be like, no. They'd be like, oh, it's so great. So I always had heard that the manga was really good. So that was the first thing. And then, of course, when we ended up doing the show, it was wonderful. And it actually had an ending that was beautiful. And Brotherhood was a rare exception where most people even like Brotherhood better than the original. But that's the long answer to your question. Full Metal is the favorite thing I've ever done. And I was very, very honored to be a part of it.
I'm in the front ask a really good question because we love you. We're so happy.
Well, I love you guys. I love you guys.
And everybody's been asking about your past and how you worked with different stuff. So how do we support you in the future? That was a really good question.
Wow. How do you support me? You know what? If you want to support me in the future, be positive. Be a voice for good. There's a lot of hate in the world. It's really sad, especially for those of us that are older and have been around a while to see it change. It's really sad to see so many people so fast to be offended by something. So on edge, just waiting for somebody to offend them, or just waiting to be outraged by something. So, the best thing that you and I and all of us can do, you can do, because obviously there are a lot of you, be a shining light in your world, no matter how big or small that world may be. You may be sitting there thinking, I'm quiet and I'm shy and I don't really talk much and I don't really have a lot of people in my circle. Yeah, but you have some. You may not have as many as that person or that person, but there are people in your life and you have the power to speak words of light and kindness and encouragement and inspiration into those people's lives. Or you also have the power to tear them down and to make them feel bad, or to hurt them, or to discourage them. Now, let's ask you the $1 million question. What would you rather someone do in your life? Wouldn't you want them to be encouraging and supportive, helpful, kind? Then you be that for someone else. That's the best thing you can do, okay?
Awesome answer. Thank you so much. So we have another question from this gentleman.
And watch Star Trek Continues.
Hey, Vic.
Hey there.
So about 10 years ago at an anime weekend in Atlanta.
Nope, it wasn't me. I did not do that.
I'm pretty sure it was you.
That was a joke. Go ahead.
Two things. You actually talked about having a CD where you recorded you reading the book of Matthew.
John.
John.
Gospel of John.
Yeah, the Gospel of John while playing the piano. Do you have that anywhere available online?
Oh my goodness, I do. And I tell you what, what's your name?
Nick.
Nick, when we finish this panel, you come back to my autograph table because I have a couple of them with me.
Awesome.
I should have brought more and I didn't because I was in a hurry to pack, but it's online. So what he's talking about, you guys, is many, many years ago, 10 or 12 years ago probably, I wanted to give back to the fans. You have been so supportive and so kind to enjoy my work over the years, and I wanted to do something to give back. So I decided to do a recording of the entire Gospel of John. Because what's better for me to give to somebody than something that's important to me, right? So I found this really cool, dude, you look awesome. Sorry, Bucky, looking good. Sorry, a little ADD there. So I used this really contemporary translation called The Message, which is just wonderful. It's talking like we talk. It's conversational. A lot of people are put off by the Bible because it's all the flowery King James, right? And but this translation is much more down to earth, like you and I talk. So I used that translation, and then when I finished it, I decided to go back and play the piano underneath the whole thing because I wanted to make it more fun to listen to. And I started making copies of it and giving it away. But the answer to your question is it is online and available at my fan club, RisembleRangers.com. Any Rangers in here? Yay, Rangers! RISEMBOOL, Risembool, that's the little town that Ed and Al came from in Full Metal. RisembleRangers.com, right? And you can download it for free there. And it's just my gift to you. It took me a long time to record, as you can imagine, but it's there for free for anybody that would like to have it. Do you have a question? Any other questions?
But right now it's 1:50.
Oh my goodness, what time are we done here?
I want to say 1:52.
Okay, so we just have a couple of minutes, right?
Yeah, let's do one more question. Why don't you pick somebody?
Hey there.
Hey, boss.
I just had a quick question. In regard to characters you've played in the past that didn't get to play very long, especially your anime characters, was there anyone in particular that you wish you could have explored more, like storylines or?
Well, I will tell you that if I had a lot of money, I would personally pay to have another season of Ouran High School Host Club. Oh my goodness. Have you seen it? You need to watch it. Dude, you'll love it. Am I right? You know what? So many guys are like, I don't watch that girl stuff. Because, you know, the periwinkle jackets and flowers and all that. And they're like, some girl show. Oh, no. No. It's totally not. It's wonderful. Funny. It's literally about it's a guy's show about these guys entertaining girls at their fancy high school. But the manga continues. And they go on to, Haruhi goes on to college, and Tamaki makes them all move with her because, you know, he can't break up the host club. And then Tamaki gets hit by a car. That did not happen, sorry. That's a fake spoiler. That's my idea of fake news right there. So I would love to see another season of that. In fact, I would love to see some people come together and just do what was necessary to raise the money or to get another season made of that show. Because the manga's there. I mean, the story's there. It's just waiting to be told. Any other one? Take one more question? We'll take one more? While he's setting up for that, I'll be back at the table right after this, and I hope you'll come by and say hello. I've gotten to meet a lot of you so far, but not nearly enough of you. I came here just to visit you, and it is such an honor. You have no idea what an incredible pleasure and honor it is, and how humbled I am that you guys came to see me. Yes, question?
Awesome. So last question, and
while working with Rooster Teeth and Monty Hellman, that production team that created Ruby, did they ever give you a general idea of the character voice, or did you just start
No,
from scratch?
they did not. Actually, they contacted me and asked me if I wanted to play a character, and I said sure. And they said, well, it's Ruby's Uncle Crow, and here are some drawings of what he looks like. And they sent me some drawings. And so I sent them back 2 or 3 different variations for the voice. And then they chose the one they wanted, and off we went. I'm really glad they chose the one they did too, because he's been a lot of fun. And you know what's funny is I don't get drunk. I just don't. So it's fun to play a drunk. And I think the key to playing a drunk guy is to do your best to not be drunk. You know what I mean? I mean, like if you've been drinking and you don't want your mom or your brother or somebody to know you've been drinking, you try to really focus hard, right? And you try to articulate really clearly. And you know you're drunk, but I sound fine. That's why I love Crow so much, because he was so much fun to play. And people would say, oh my gosh, you sound so drunk when you were playing him. I'm not drunk at all, I'm just having fun. And I just love him to death. And don't ask me if he's Ruby's dad. Because I don't know, and I wouldn't tell you even if I did. Because my life would be short. You guys, thank you for coming. God bless you guys so much.
One more round of applause.